Hi, my name is Courtney Sydnor. I am the city attorney in Hampton, Virginia. I've been in that role for about 10 months. Prior to that, I spent about 14 years in the Loudoun County Attorney's Office. I'm pleased to be here to talk with future lawyers, law students, people who may be considering a career in real estate or hopefully local government about what it is that we do in local government and how it affects real estate and virtually every aspect of the law, basically. But I'm going to take a moment and back up to the beginning and tell you a little bit about my education and career path. I grew up in suburban Maryland, Montgomery County, went to the University of Virginia for undergraduate, went into undergraduate pretty much expecting that I would go to law school, came out with a degree in foreign affairs and history and thinking, pretty much better go to law school because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those 2 degrees. And I went on straight from undergraduate to law school at the University of Richmond. During my time at the University of Richmond, I clerked one summer in the Richmond office of Hunton & Williams, which is now Hunton Andrews Kurth. And I did end up going to work at Hunton & Williams after law school. I clerked for a year first at the Supreme Court of Virginia and then went on from there to started out in the Richmond office of Hunton & Williams. I was on the litigation team. I went to law school. I didn't know any lawyers. So I never really had the opportunity to talk to anyone about what do lawyers do? What are the different types of law that you can practice? What is your day-to-day like? And so my concept of what it is to be a lawyer is what you see on TV. And so I thought that's what I would be doing, a trial attorney like Law and Order, or when I was in law school, people used to ask me, was Ally McBeal a realistic depiction of what it's like to be in law school? Some of you folks may not know what Ally McBeal is. If you do see it, check it out. It is not realistic at all. So really the only thing I knew about the law was litigation. And so I joined the litigation team in Hunton & Williams. In the Richmond office, I was on the intellectual property and antitrust team. I was there for about a year and I wanted to get back to the area where I grew up. So I transferred to the Northern Virginia office of Hunton & Williams, the litigation team there, much smaller office, much smaller team. And at the time I arrived at the Northern Virginia office of Hunton & Williams, the litigation team had a big development client, a developer who had a lot of projects in Loudoun County. They had filed for several rezoning applications to do large residential developments, many of which were denied. And so they were in the process of suing Loudoun County in 2002 when I joined that office. And so that's what the work was that they had at the time. So that's the work that I did. So that was my real introduction to anything related to real estate and local government. I knew nothing about that before then. And so working on those cases. And the following year in 2003, Loudoun County had adopted a significant updates to its zoning ordinance, which was very controversial, especially amongst the development community. And there were over 200 lawsuits filed against Loudoun County challenging those zoning ordinance amendments. Hunton & Williams had probably over 100 of those lawsuits. So we were very significantly involved in that litigation. And through that, I got to work with a lot of other attorneys in Northern Virginia, not just the attorneys from Hunton. Actually, 2 of the attorneys that you saw in a prior segment of this Living Law Library, John Foote and Ben Lay, who I think talked about land use, they were attorneys also representing plaintiffs in that Loudoun County litigation. And so I just had an opportunity as a very young lawyer at that time to meet people who were very experienced, to be right in the middle of very interesting work that I didn't know at the time, but that was ultimately going to kind of dictate my career path going forward in the future. So after a while, I worked on those cases involving Loudoun County on the plaintiff side. Did have an opportunity to meet the then county attorney, Jack Roberts. At some point, I'd moved on from Hunton & Williams to a different law firm. Where I wasn't particularly happy. I knew that's not where I wanted to be for the rest of my career. and I had run into Jack Roberts again, just doing some other things, and I saw that Loudoun County was hiring for an assistant county attorney, and I never would have thought to do local government law. I wasn't really sure what that job would entail. I just knew that I wanted a new job from the one I had at that time. And when I saw that, I thought, I wonder if Jack will hire me. Like, I know he remembers me because I had just seen him, maybe a year or so before that. I said, I'm going to apply, and maybe I'll go work there for 2 years and figure out what's next. And as I said, I was there for 14 years, and I've often said to people that the job I had in Loudoun County was the best job that I ever had. And I've, been at my new job for less than a year. I moved on from Loudoun County only because I was looking for an advancement opportunity, an opportunity to be, the city attorney, the person in charge of the office. But my ability to do that and my preparation to do that was really from all of the experiences that I had in the Loudoun County Attorney's Office. I remember when I met with Jack for my interview, he came in and he was a couple of minutes late, and he said, I was dealing with some First Amendment issue. And I thought to myself, what on earth does First Amendment have to do with local government? And I'm going to tell you, it has a lot to do with local government. There's so much that local government law touches that you cannot even imagine. From the First Amendment, it has to do with the ability of people to come and talk to you and talk about things that you may not want to hear, or not being able really to restrict their speech, being able to come and use your public forums, your courthouse lawns, or whatever, parks, or any other thing that's generally open to the public for speech or speech-like activities. The way you regulate signs in a locality affects the First Amendment. Whether or not you can regulate murals, whether or not you can prohibit people from panhandling in the median of your streets, which you might think is public safety. You don't want people standing in the medians because it's not exactly very safe to do that. But all of those things are protected by the First Amendment, and those are things that local government attorneys have to grapple with all the time. And so when I started in Loudoun County, I joined as a litigator because that's what my experience had been, working at that time primarily in tax assessment appeals and tax sale cases, selling property where people had been more than 3 years delinquent with their taxes. Sort of my introduction to, dealing with real estate matters. Through that, I had to learn about how to search the land records and identify who the property owner is, and just a way of dealing with selling property. And on the assessment side, when people were coming in to challenge their real estate tax assessment because they thought it was too high, there's a lot that goes into determining what the value of property is, including how it can be used, any development approvals that you have related to that, development potential for it. So a lot of things that touch upon the substantive uses of the real estate, substantive real estate law that impact that. So, as I made my way through the various kind of assignments that I had at Loudoun County, while there's so much more than just real estate in local government, there was a lot that I ended up doing that really did touch and concern real estate. So when I moved on from the litigation and tax practice, I moved into a role where I was responsible for the real estate group in the county attorney's office, so the buying and selling of real estate. One of the things that we were doing, we had an affordable dwelling unit program in Loudoun County where developers who were building new homes had to provide so many units for make them affordable for people really who earn just a regular wage, and not the astronomical prices that property can otherwise go for. And there was a glitch in the program where they would say, well, we'll offer it, but if nobody wants to buy it, then we can sell it for market rate for our normal profit making prices. And although there was a whole list of people who needed and wanted to buy affordable units, somehow the developers were saying we couldn't find anybody to buy these houses, so we just are going to go ahead and sell them at our normal price. So one of the things we would do is that we would buy them from the developer and then flip them, turn them around and sell them to the people on our waiting list. So that was a real estate transaction we were doing. Also buying property for county facilities, either vacant land to build new facilities, police stations, parks, rec centers, etc., or buying existing vacant or nearly vacant buildings to use for county office space or storage space, things like that. So I acquired a lot of real estate for Loudoun County while I was there. Worked on some fairly sophisticated development projects. Loudoun County was a funding partner for the extension of the Metro Silver Line to Dulles International Airport and 2 stops beyond into Loudoun County. We were a funding partner for that, and also had to do some infrastructure projects related to that. And so I was able to work on those projects, and that was actually fascinating to me because, having been a lifelong resident of the Washington D.C. area, I had been riding the metro my whole life, and it was interesting to really get in and see how it works, like what goes on behind the scenes, the funding of it, actually get to go to the metro headquarters and to see what that's all about. And then at some point in my time in Loudoun County, I went on and took over the land use section. Loudoun County is out there in the news. It's the fastest growing county in the state, in the country, in the world. I don't know. What it is there is a lot of development going on at a very fast pace. And I would say, I think a lot of people in local government would say if you want to do land use, Loudoun County is absolutely a great place to do it. And it was a fantastic place for me to learn about planning and zoning and development. And, I went in there again, not really knowing a lot about it. I was not a land use lawyer. Everything I did in Loudoun County having to do with real estate or land use or development is just what I learned as I did. And it's made it that there was never a boring day, no 2 days exactly alike. It was hard to predict what the issues were going to be. Just when you thought you had figured something out, here comes the next thing. And so what I would say to you all out there who may be interested in local government, or who don't even know anything about local government, because probably like me, when I was in law school, I knew nothing about local government. But if you're interested in real estate law, if you're interested in land use, if you're interested in development, if you're interested in the First Amendment, if you're interested in litigation, please, please, please give a thought to local government, because it involves all of those things and so many more things that I have not even yet talked about. In my office in Hampton, now, the City of Hampton, where I work now, we had 2 summer interns who I had lunch with them last week, asking them about their experience. They are law students at William & Mary, and they both talked to me about how, the variety of things that they got to work on. And as they talked to some of their classmates who were working in law firms, who really weren't doing as much stuff as they were getting to do in our office, or were surprised at the number of things that they got to do. And I think a number of local government legal offices in Virginia welcome interns in the summer, or even during the school year if you have an externship program or an opportunity. Absolutely check it out. I think you will find it valuable, rewarding, and a really great educational experience. Can't say enough about local government, and absolutely hoping that the lawyers of tomorrow will consider it.